And in August of 2018, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So we took, a leap of faith and implemented functional medicine, natural healing. He was able to completely regain his functionality, and today he lives a very normal life. But in 2018, before we knew anything about holistic healing, we were seeing a neurologist, and he had told him that he was going to have to take obviously some medication for the rest of his life and that he would be in a wheelchair within a year. My husband and I just kind of looked at each other, and it didn't sit right with us. We didn't know exactly what we were going to do, but we just knew it wasn't going to be that, because another thing that the neurologist had told us was the main side effect of that medication in particular was cancer, and it only had a 40% success rate. So the odds weren't even in his favor at 40%, and the potential for him to get cancer obviously was concerning. So we stepped out of the office that day with no real plan. We just knew it was not going to be conventional medicine.
Welcome to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. I'm your host, Johnny Mango. This is the place where we inquire about lifestyle, culture, and careers. Weekly, we meet with new guests that make a contribution of their insightful stories about their careers and how those careers impact their lifestyle and culture. Hello, everybody. This is Johnny Mango, and today we have a very interesting guest, and I'd like to introduce you to Aleiah Kennedy, who practices functional medicine, and we're going to learn all about that today. So, Aleiah, welcome, and tell us about functional medicine.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. And yes, I work with a lot of nurses and nurse practitioners. So the program that I did was with a lot of nurses and nurse practitioners. But yes, I would love to share my story. So my name is Aleiah. I am a board-certified functional medicine coach, and I have 6 years of experience helping others heal holistically through food, through product changes, detoxing, biohacking, different things like that. And again, I was in the dental field for about 15 years in the state of Kentucky. My husband was offered a job in Alabama, so I left dentistry in 2018, and that's when we moved to Alabama. And then that year actually is when he started having some health issues. And in August of 2018, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So we took, a leap of faith and implemented functional medicine, natural healing. He was able to completely regain his functionality, and today he lives a very normal life. But in 2018, before we knew anything about holistic healing, we were seeing a neurologist, and he had told him that he was going to have to take obviously some medication for the rest of his life and that he would be in a wheelchair within a year. My husband and I just kind of looked at each other, and it didn't sit right with us. We didn't know exactly what we were going to do, but we just knew it wasn't going to be that, because another thing that the neurologist had told us was the main side effect of that medication in particular was cancer, and it only had a 40% success rate. So the odds weren't even in his favor at 40%, and the potential for him to get cancer obviously was concerning. So we stepped out of the office that day with no real plan. We just knew it was not going to be conventional medicine.
Wow. So can you explain the one distinction that you would give between what you call functional medicine and traditional medicine from your experience?
Yes, absolutely. So functional medicine is root cause medicine. We get to the why. We get to the root cause. We don't just mask the symptoms, and that's what conventional medicine likes to do, is mask symptoms with medication. So the primary difference between functional and conventional is going to be root cause medicine, actually getting to the root cause, finding out why you're experiencing the things that you're experiencing, as opposed to just masking with medication. And then in functional medicine, we look at whole person health, like how are you sleeping? How can we regulate your nervous system? Are you properly hydrated? Are you nutrient deficient? Are your hormones balanced? Different things like that.
So that sounds like there's a lot of diagnostics involved to come to a conclusion of, hey, this is how I can help you.
Yes. Yeah, you're exactly right. So I work with my clients for 12 months. So we have a whole year to address all of the things that need to be addressed. We typically, depending on the client, we don't guess, we test to get accurate information, to get accurate numbers and a diagnosis, and then we target that specifically. So we don't go just based off symptoms per se. In the medical system, I've had so many clients come to me and tell me that they've talked to their doctor, their blood work is fine, but they tell their doctor, obviously, I'm having these symptoms, something is not right. Although my blood work is showing normal, I'm telling you something is wrong. And the medical system doesn't address that because they're taught what's profitable. They're taught medications. If they can put you on a medication, then you are essentially a customer for the rest of your life because you have to go back every 3 to 6 months. So, it's a very profitable business.
I actually have a friend right now who is experiencing exactly that.
Mm.
She keeps complaining about she's not feeling well, and she keeps going to the doctor, and they say, well, your blood work looks okay, and you're okay. And she says, I'm not okay.
Yes.
Do you, let me ask you, Aleiah, do you do this online? Do you have to do it in a personal setting? How does that work?
No, me personally, my whole business is 100% online. So any test that I order will be shipped directly to my client's home. It's usually saliva, urine. The GI map is a stool test, so they would just have to obviously read the directions, send it back to the lab. I would get the results, and then we would go from there.
I see. So you can work anywhere with anybody.
Yes, I have clients all over the country.
Well, that's good to know. In fact, I'm gonna tell my friend about you because
Thank you.
I think she needs some help.
I would love to.
Obviously, I'm not even close to the medical community, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I would love to help her. And it's so fulfilling because by the time clients get to me, they typically have exhausted all other options. They've told me I've been in the medical system. I've done all the tests. I've done all the blood work. I've been on all the medications. I've done all the things. They're not helping me. So I'm here with you. Please help me. And and I say this as humbly as possible, but I have a really high success rate with my clients. And it's because of functional medicine. We are actually looking at what the root cause problem is.
Right. Wow. So you have a high success rate. Do you want to guess what that is, or you would not want to say?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I've just percentage wise. I don't know. I would say probably around, if I had to just guess off the top of my head, probably 85-90%.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and like I said, it's really fulfilling because I watch these clients come to me with all these symptoms and, whatever the case may be, chronic fatigue, fertility. Actually, last year in 2024, I had a few infertile women come to me. They did the IVF treatments. They tried for years to have kids, and I can say that all 3 of them are pregnant now.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. It really, really is amazing. But, again, I can't reiterate enough, that the medical system is very profitable and it's a disease monopoly. They are counting on us being sick in order for them to profit. They don't make any money off of a well person. So they're not going to help heal you in any way. They're just going to mask the symptoms.
So let me ask you, let's go back to your personal story. So you were dental medical field,
Mm-hmm.
and your husband became ill. How did you tell us about how you made this transition? Career-wise, how did you go from just help? It's one thing to help your husband, and it's another thing to say, this is what I'm going to do with my life. How did you do that? Tell me about what transpired for you.
Yeah. So when my husband was diagnosed, as I said, we walked out of the office that day with no real plan. But I can tell you that I had a cousin, or have a cousin, who 20 years prior to that beat non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and Crohn's disease through doing what I'm doing, through functional medicine and whole foods eating and just focusing on root cause. She had worked with, I think, a naturopath at that time, 20 years prior. And up to that point, she was always I laugh when I say this, but like she was always the weird one of the family. Like she was the one that, well, she brought her essential oils to the family gatherings and would bring her own food, wouldn't eat any of the food that we prepared. And we just all kind of thought she was odd, but she was the first person that I reached out to, right? So I was like, okay, we've got this in front of us. I've seen the results that you have. Please help us. So she did. She helped us, and then she got us in contact with a functional medicine doctor who we eventually invested in, and that doctor guided us over the next 12 months to show us how to detox and how to regulate our nervous system and how to do all the necessary things. So after seeing my husband's results, because I would say within 2 to 3 months of us implementing the things that we were taught by her, my husband regained his functionality. He regained really everything that he had lost. He had lost his muscle mass, his functionality on his left side. I would physically have to help him up off the couch and walk him to the bathroom. That's how bad off he was. And this is a guy that was a high school athlete. I mean, even out of high school in just our adult married life, he did CrossFit, he did functional fitness. So he was really always athletic. So to watch him go from that to just a shell of a man was really, really hard.
Chronic disease really is debilitating psychologically for people, I think.
Yes, he had the awfulest time mentally.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that suffer just because they can't do what they used to do. I know I just went through a situation where I was experiencing some dizziness and no one could help me. And I talked to my doctor and he said, well, there is a special physical therapy facility in town that just works on dizziness and falling down.
Mm-hmm.
Took me like 3 months to get in there. And what fascinated me was they spent 6 sessions in diagnostics with me. In other words, having me do different things and finally ascertain that my deep inner ear is not functioning with my eyes correctly, which is causing me an imbalance.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by that. And the exercises they had me do were so simple to correct it.
Yeah.
That within 3 or 4 weeks, I got my balance back. I couldn't believe it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, wow, you guys ought to open one of these places up everywhere.
So they just had you do basic at-home exercises?
Yeah, I went in twice a week to do some things, and they would, every so often, I'd tell them what my experiences were at home, and they would say, okay, let's try this and let's try that. As an example, I was in a church meeting, and everybody had candles around the church, and they turned the lights out. And after that, I was walking out to my car, and all of a sudden, I had balance issues. Just boom, and I thought I was doing so well. And I went back to my therapist and said, hey, this is what happened to me. And they put me in this room with all these flashing lights, and which helped them understand where they needed to put emphasis for me. And they got me right through it and explained why and how and all those kinds of things. So I guess that was kind of functional in itself, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's what I was getting ready to say. Like that just goes to show, simple things can make the biggest difference. You don't necessarily have to take, we all know that medications have side effects. There's not one medication out there that doesn't have a side effect.
Right.
And when we take medications over a period of time, we're going to experience at least one of the side effects. And then they put us on another medication to mask that side effect. And it's just a ripple effect. It's a domino effect. But you're exactly right. Like simple approaches sometimes and oftentimes are going to be the best answer. And in regard to just, simply like, this is a really good example for regulating your nervous system. Things like yoga, prayer, meditation, different things like that are really good for your nervous system as opposed to being put on a medication for anxiety or depression.
Good point. So you're a practitioner It sounds like you were guided by a medical doctor to get into this, to where you learn this. Is that correct? Or how did you get, are you certified in this, or
Yeah.
how's that work?
Yeah, I am. I'm board certified. I feel like God has put just every person that I have needed, He has put right in front of me throughout this journey. It really has been amazing. So like I said, we had invested in our personal doctor, our naturopathic doctor, 18. And then a few years later, a friend introduced me to Dr. Lauren DuRoy, and she is the lady that has the functional medicine program. She has her doctorate. She's a nurse practitioner, but she has her doctorate. She's amazing. So full of knowledge, that woman. But I did her functional medicine program and then ended up getting board certified through her. So now I actually work directly with her, and I work with her nurses and her nurse practitioners that she has inside the program. So it's funny because her program, where she came from the medical field, she was a nurse practitioner. Her program is designed for nurses and nurse practitioners, but she ended up following me on Facebook, and she saw my knowledge and my passion for what I'm doing, and she invited me to do her functional medicine program. So I was the first person in her program who didn't have that medical background, that medical knowledge. I wasn't a nurse. I wasn't a nurse practitioner. I was simply at that point just a coach.
Yeah. Okay. So you're certified now, so you can do this. Do you run into any conflicts from state to state with your certification, or you're
No,
pretty
as a
good?
coach, I don't. No. Now, if I would have my license, my nursing license or my nurse practitioner license, yes, there would be some issues state to state. I would only be able to work with clients in the states that I was licensed in. But as a coach, I don't have any restrictions.
And I would guess that you're really not, obviously, you're not prescribing medicine. You're really
Right.
just, you're guiding people in how to use natural
Yeah.
things
Yeah,
for
just
their
basic
improvement.
lifestyle change. Yeah, basic lifestyle changes, simple shifts that can be made. Again, are you drinking enough water? Let's check your, actually, I can order, I work under some nurse practitioners, so I can order labs for my clients and consult with a nurse practitioner. We read the labs and personalize the protocol suggestion. It is a protocol suggestion since I'm not a practitioner. But yeah, like it's simple life shifts, daily shifts that can be made and changed to incorporate the biggest result.
Speaking of change, give us a couple of examples of changes, that maybe 3 or 4 changes that people can make that would help their lifestyle, just general,
Okay.
that you
Yes.
know about.
Yeah, I would love to. So hydration is a big one. Most of us live in a chronic state of dehydration. We don't drink enough water. We are drinking fruit juices and sodas and different things like that, living off coffee. Water really is super important. It is probably of the utmost importance. So I would say drink at least half of your body weight in ounces a day. And then also focus on eating fruits that have high water content, because our water intake also needs to be with the minerals and different things like that. So cantaloupe, watermelon, those are really great fruits with high water content that can be eaten pretty much year round. I mean, you can get them, I guess, this time of year. It's not as prevalent as it is in the summer, but you can get foods like that. Focus on whole food nutrition, eating just real foods, trying not to eat out of a box, eating things like beans, legumes, fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, minimizing processed food intake, eliminating sugar is a huge one. Natural sugars are fine, natural sugars from fruits and different things like that, but I'm talking refined artificial sugars are inflammatory to your system. And then also moving your body, like sweat it out, exercise. Doesn't have to be anything vigorous. If you just want to take a walk every day, that's better than being completely sedentary. So I would suggest moving your body in some way every day. If you can go to the gym, go to the gym. If you can't, again, just go outside and take a walk. You can get on YouTube. Most of us have access to YouTube today. You can get on YouTube and look up some at-home workouts, some yoga, some stretching exercises, different things like that. So I would say those would be my top 3 to start out with. Of course, if you're dealing with some chronic illness, different things like that, it's going to have to go more in depth at some point, but those 3 are going to be the 3 main ones that I would focus on initially.
When you said out of the box, don't eat stuff from out of the box. I discovered last year that I had an intolerance to gluten, which
Most
I
of us
had.
do.
My blood pressure was fluctuating all over the place, and I was starting to have all kinds of gut problems. I went to my doctor, and well, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about my blood pressure. I mean, at one minute it would be super low, and the next minute it would be super high. And I got to the point where I was checking it 2 or 3 times a day. And I finally, my doctor really kind of threw his hands up in the air and said, I said, you need to get me to a blood pressure specialist because it's not working with you and I on this issue.
Yeah.
And they sent me to a kidney. I didn't realize blood pressure is connected to the kidneys, but they sent me to a kidney doctor. And one of the things that was happening, every time I'd have these big spikes, I would call my doctor's office, and whatever doctor was on duty, because sometimes it'd be on the weekend, he would prescribe another medication that if my blood pressure got above 150 over 95 or 100, take this medication. Or if it got higher, take this other medication. And so they're prescribing all this meds for me. So I go see the blood pressure guy. And of course, they do all the ultrasound on my kidneys and make sure everything's functioning right. And I sat down with him, and he said, bring all your meds. And he went through my list of meds that I had, and I brought all the ones that I was supposed to take if it went high. And he's going, don't be taking all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He said, blood pressure medicine only works if you take it continuously, not if your blood pressure goes to a certain number, don't take this one, And it was completely opposite of what one doctor said about the other.
Yeah, and they don't consult with one another is another complaint that I get a lot.
Yeah.
I actually have had a client recently that kind of the same situation with a different ailment, of course, but she's like, my one doctor put me on this medication, but my specialist said not to take it, and they don't consult with one another, and it's confusing.
Right. Completely ironic. One of my son's girlfriends is gluten-free, and she was over to visit one day, and my wife made her some gluten-free cupcakes. And, I saw the cupcakes on the counter, and I'm going to grab one of these. These look good. And I ate it, and it tasted pretty good. And I noticed immediately that I didn't have any indigestion from it that I've been experiencing.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So I made the decision to just stay off gluten for a couple weeks just to see what would happen. And within 5 days, my life changed.
Yes. Probably bloating. Yeah, your bloating probably subsided. Indigestion, all of the things. Yeah. So our crops, of course, everything in America, we're a very toxic country, okay?
Yeah.
Just in general, everything that we are exposed to on a daily basis is toxic. We actually are exposed to about 700 toxins on a daily basis.
Are we really?
When it comes to food in general, for example, gluten, it's the glyphosate that they are spraying on the crops, because you can go to Europe and have gluten in those countries and you would not have any issues.
I have a friend who said exactly the same thing. Mm-hmm. He's a math professor at one of the universities around here. And we were talking one day because he's got gluten issues. And he was telling me that he and his partner went to France, I think, and he just had to have a pastry or something. He noticed he didn't have any gluten reaction. Mm-hmm. And so when he said he could eat anything in Europe.
Yeah.
And it didn't bother him.
Yes, I know. I've had so many people tell me the same thing. I would love to go experience that myself. That's actually one of my goals, is to travel to Europe so I would love to compare their food to our food.
Yeah. So we actually are ingesting toxins and we just don't know it.
Absolutely. On a daily basis, through our food, through our water, just the hygiene products, household products that we use, the laundry detergents, the lotions, the colognes, the shampoos, the soaps, and Our skin is our biggest organ and it's very porous. So anything that we put on our skin is going directly into our bloodstream. And yeah, when we look at lotions, different things like that we're putting on our skin, we turn that bottle around and we look at the ingredients. That ingredient list is going to be a mile long, and it is going to be of things that we cannot pronounce and we don't know what it is. And those are simply toxins and chemicals and carcinogens and artificial perfumes. Those are all endocrine hormonal disruptors.
So tell me about you turned this into a business, basically, right? I mean,
Yeah,
this is your
yeah,
career.
it is.
How did you transform that? How did you go? I know you helped your husband, and that's
Mhm,
that's a personal mission. That's actually different than being a practitioner.
mhm.
So how did you
Yeah.
make that transition?
Yeah, so I posted our journey on Facebook and all the social media platforms. This was before I knew that I was going to be doing this for a living. I would post the things that we were eating and the changes that we were making, and there was a lot of people that were really intrigued by it. But then on the contrary, there were a lot of people that were offended by it and they
Yeah,
didn't understand it. And I did lose some friends, lost some family that thought I was crazy, but it is what it is. But yeah, like there were so many people that were inspired by, our transformation and watching Greg's story from the beginning and seeing where he is now. Some people were like, that I have watched your journey. I have seen the information that you post and it makes sense. So I'm going to follow suit. Like I want to change my lifestyle as well. And then actually I was able to come off some medications. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was 16, Raynaud's
that,
disease. I had migraines. I was on medication for migraines. I had hypothyroidism that I was on medication for. I had chronic fatigue. I was parenting from the couch because I was just so tired. I had brain fog. I couldn't even really hold a conversation because I had such brain fog. Honestly was miserable in my own skin. And when my husband was diagnosed and we switched everything, obviously I did it right along with him. And I'm on no medications. I was able to come off all my medications. I have no symptoms of anything whatsoever. And, we live very normal lives. Like we've reduced our inflammation in our bodies by eliminating the harmful toxins that I was talking about earlier in the products. Laundry detergents and lotions and different things like that. So it's simple swaps, just swapping lotions that you're using that you might be getting from, Walmart or wherever to a better option.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you really coach people on this. You really set them up on once you work with the nurse practitioner to get the diagnosis and understanding of the physiology, then you can guide them through what I would consider more coaching activity.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. I do coach my clients. It's 12 months that we have to work together and we switch everything. We swap your hygiene products, your diet, your water intake, your stress level, because that's a huge factor as well. Most of us we live in a very fast-paced culture, and most of us, I will dare to say, are very anxious and high-strung and always on a 10 because we have work, and then we have ball games, and we have spouses and dinner, and you know what I mean? It's a vicious cycle, and that puts our nervous system out of regulation. And when your nervous system is out of regulation, I'm sure you've heard that stress is the silent killer. And it absolutely is. If your nervous system is not regulated, nothing is working properly. Your organs quite literally don't work optimally.
I learned that with my blood pressure. Like I was telling you, I was checking my blood pressure. The blood pressure doctor told me how to really check it, how to measure it. You do it 3 times throughout the first one, record the second 2, that kind of thing. And I was doing it for him. And one night I was sitting in my office at home and doing my blood pressure, and it was normal. And I live in a very rural area, and it was during the summer, and the windows were open, and so a gun went off in my neighborhood, which is not uncommon. I mean,
Okay.
but it startled me because it seemed very close. And I did the 3rd time on my blood pressure, and my blood pressure went way high just from that one situation.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the stress issue that you're describing.
That's it. That's how we live most of our day is in that. So there's sympathetic when we're talking about the nervous system. the autonomic nervous system, there's sympathetic and there's parasympathetic. And, we've got our fight or flight and we have our rest and digest. And when we are in fight or flight, which is what most of us live in on a daily basis, is fight or flight. So your body, it's funny when I always tell this story and it makes so much sense. It's like a light bulb clicks for people. So when we are in fight or flight, our body doesn't know the difference. We think, historically speaking, when we are in fight or flight, it's like we're being chased by a wild animal in the forest, right? Your body's, the only thing that's on your mind is survival. So your organs shut down, different things like that. Like you're just thinking about survival. And we don't need to be in that state. We need to be in rest or digest most of the time. But we're in such a fast-paced, stressful culture that we are quite the opposite. We live most of our days in fight or flight rather than rest or digest. So you just really need to understand that you're not being chased by a lion. It's okay to be in rest or digest.
Right. Wow. Well, Aleiah, how does somebody find you?
Yeah, you can visit bewellcompany.org. We actually have some non-toxic products on there. And then there are some tabs you can click on. So Wellness Program Overview is what you can click on in order to book a discovery call with me. And it's about a 45-minute call. We'll discuss your goals, your issues, and I'll go over the program, how it works. We also have some workshops on there. You can click on the workshop tab. And we have a label reading workshop where you can learn how to flip a product over, read the ingredients, and decipher what's okay and what's not okay. We have a hormone workshop. We have lots of different workshops. We offer a lot of options.
So it's bewellcompany.org. Thank you. bewellcompany.org to find Aleiah Kennedy and her functional medicine practice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Leah, thank you for joining us today. I really, I found it enlightening, actually, and I appreciate you taking the time to share with us so much information.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
All right. You have been listening to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. Subscribe to hear a new and unique guest each week as they comment on their life's journey and share experiences with lifestyle, culture, and career. You can always find us at minuteswithmango.com.